Hello and welcome to Tattered Cover, our virtual event series. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Adam and I work at Tattered Cover Bookstore, and we're Colorado's largest independent bookstore. And we've been around for 50 years, so thank you to all the readers and customers and everyone who supported us over the past half century. It's because of you that we're able to have this longevity and our expansion to McGregor Square right next to Coors Field, where the Rockies play. And then soon, within the next few weeks, we're opening up a kids-focused store in Stanley Marketplace, which if you're here for tonight's event, maybe that really interests you because we have an exciting author who has a great kids book out right now. But before I go any further, I do want to inform you that closed captioning is available on this video for anyone who wants or needs it. There's a black bar at the bottom of the screen labeled CC. Just click that and you'll be able to get closed captioning if you want it or need it. Please check out tatteredcover.com/event for more virtual events. We actually have a virtual story time tomorrow morning. So for anyone out there listening with little kiddos, we have Shelley Johansson coming tomorrow at 10:30 via the internet to do a story time with picture books. So check out tatteredcover.com/event for more info. Tonight, I am so excited to introduce the author of Ham Helsing #1, Vampire Hunter, Rich Moyer. Rich specializes in offbeat and irreverent as a syndicated cartoonist and an award-winning animator. He lives in Denver with his wife Autumn and daughters Cleo and Juno. Ham Helsing is his debut graphic novel series. So please give a warm virtual welcome to Rich Moyer.
All right. Hey.
Hey, Rich.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for us, doing this with Tattered Cover and having your book like launch with us almost. It's pretty new, right?
Yeah, June 1st it came out, and it's been great. It's been very strange. I did it really for the joy of my two daughters, and so all this extra is like one surprise into another. So it's just great. So
for sure. And tell readers out there, what is Ham Helsing about? I mean, it's fairly obvious with the name what it could be about, but what is Ham Helsing?
Yeah, for those that aren't into vampires, Van Helsing is the classic vampire hunter that's got a chip on his shoulder to find Dracula or vampires. So this is a spin on that. This is it's not so close to vampire lore that I'm not making my own way. So I was taking a little bit of that lore and kind of doing my own humorous take on it. So Ham is the odd pig out. He's this gentle pig in this long line of vampire pig hunters or vampire hunters that happen to be pigs. So he's the last man standing. He's the last one in his family to still be alive because they're very aggressive people by nature, and this like toxic masculinity that they carry around, wield like a sword, they end up having very short lifespans. And so he's trying to carry on the family legacy of that, and he's really not built for that sort of work. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. You started this for your daughters. Just was it a project that you were just telling them about and drawing for them, or how did it kind of evolve?
I started as a syndicated cartoonist, and I've always had a love for graphic novels and all sorts of media and movies. And not really until I had daughters did I understand how much talent there was in this arena. And so just by the nature of reading them books, and they're 9 and 7. So, I started this a couple years ago, and Cleo was just getting into graphic novels, and my mind was just blown by the talent and the popularity of graphic novels in the kids market. So I just thought it would be so cool to be on the reading shelf. So I started pitching picture books to start with and getting an agent, a literary agent. And it really wasn't until I started putting together a graphic novel that I think I found what I could do a lot better, I think, than picture books.
Yeah.
Fiction books take a certain talent as well, but it's just different.
For sure. And like you said, I'm blown away by like this recent, and I say recent, it's probably like 10 years old at this point, like influx of like graphic novels for kids, for middle grade readers, even younger. Um, why Ham Helsing? How did that kind of come into your mind?
Boy, I I've been asked that, and I wanted to do something fun and irreverent. You know, I think if you don't have a certain amount of uh, freedom in how you're writing, you
Mhm.
don't really. If you're not trying to push the line a little bit, you're not really exploring the right opportunities for kids even. And I'm not talking maybe jumping the shark with age group, but you've got to be unafraid to do things that are, they're trying to get vampires and hurt vampires or kill vampires. I think I think you start without any limitations at all. And I thought that I always liked B movies. I always liked that kitschy, fun, um, almost silly horror movies. Like the guy that did Guardians of the Galaxy, he did a movie called Slithers. It's still above the kids' age that might be watching, but it's silly, right? And um, there's all these movies that kind of walk the line between there's a gravity to the characters can get hurt, but at the same time it's goofy fun. So that was I was trying to walk that line of not having a concept that leaned on a lore that people knew a little bit about. So they already walk in knowing a little bit about vampires or a little bit about it just because there's been so many movies. And then the trick was to try not to lean on that lore so much that I had a to-do list. But yeah, that's a good question. I can't remember the start of Ham. I think it was just a silly pun, and then I thought how fun it would be to have this unlikely hero, unlikely
Yeah.
guy that's not no good at what he does, because you're being put in this very dangerous position. So I just, having that dichotomy of that sounded really fun to me.
And are your daughters, were they involved in like, not the writing obviously, but were you bouncing ideas off of them? Were they your sounding board throughout all this, or was it kind of they had no interest in it?
They definitely had interest. I think the thing was I really wanted them to read it
Mm,
without, because there's so many iterations of it. You
yeah.
rewrite, and I'm at a point now where I can throw ideas away, and I don't really hold on to them like they're some great treasure. And if it's not moving the story along, I just throw them out. And I'm really at a place where I can do that. And I think if they saw this evolution, it wouldn't be so magical when I showed them the book. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So I didn't try and hide it from them, but they liked that I was drawing. They saw it one page at a time a little bit, but
Hmm.
they weren't getting a really good idea of what was going on until the book actually came out. And so that was really neat. When I got an advanced copy, a reader's copy, um, they just ate it up. It was great. I mean, it took me 8 months to do it, and they read it in an afternoon.
Yeah.
So, but it was very rewarding to see them like read it 3 or 4 times, or once a night. They just
Yeah.
couldn't put it down. It was cool.
And so you're a syndicated, or we're a syndicated cartoonist, so you understand like what works. But I would imagine writing a children's graphic novel, there's different humor, different beats. How do you know it's working when you're writing it? Because normally I talk to authors who write like adult fiction, and that makes sense to me, but this is a completely different world. So like how do you know when it's working?
Well, I did animation after I did syndicated cartooning. So I did syndicated cartooning in the 90s,
Hmm.
which is a long time ago, of course. And and I saw that my friends weren't reading the newspaper as much, and I was offered another 5-year deal, and I didn't have faith in doing that. And
Hmm.
there was all sorts of opportunities opening up with animation. So I dove into animation. I think that inspired a lot of the process on this.
Mm.
So I wrote it not in comic book format where you go panel 1, this happens, panel 2, that happens. To me, that's not a wrong way to work if you're a writer and you're handing it off to an artist, and you're a big machine like Marvel or Dark Horse or any of those companies, especially if you're a writer with good vision, But I wanted to write it like a movie. So I wrote it in script format.
Okay.
And that way I could expand on scenes just like a director would. I could make things, and I could also edit it without it having a cascading effect on the panels. So if you take a big chunk of your book out and it's all paneled out, to me that could create a mess of dominoes falling on top of each other and trying to figure out, how to paste it. It's kind of like, I don't want to direct it before it's written or before it's edited, So I wrote it in script format. I think animation gave me a good sense of pacing.
Yeah.
And I tried to look at each page as much as I could, also with one eye on the syndicated cartooning world that I was involved in. So in that, you'd have these Sunday comics that kind of they weren't all laugh out loud funny, but any cartoonist would strive to make, obviously a complete thought. So each page is trying as much as it can to deliver a complete thought. And it's not going to be like, you can't just rip a page out and have it be complete, but it definitely feels like a full beat. And so that was what I tried to do, either have a cliffhanger on it or a complete thought, or, to think in terms of a bunch of Sunday comic strips chained together. So.
Yeah, and I've seen traditional comic book scripts where it's the writer who's handing it off to the artist, and so I understand what you're talking about. Was your script like just bare bones dialogue, quick action, or how in depth did you get the scripts so then you could make the movie, like make the artistry of it?
Yeah, I wrote it. I've read quite a few scripts, and what I pulled out of that experience of reading other people's scripts is the fact that they're not going to add any descriptions that's not going to be on the screen or on the page. So they don't need to get carried away of trying to describe something to an editor that's not going to land on the page. And because also in doing that, you're doing a disservice to the visuals or the writing, because if you scrub all that off, you're not going to have that support, right? So it's got to live within the pictures and the dialogue. So I would bare bones, like, exterior shot, woods, go right into it, and
yeah.
It was about 90 pages in script format, something like that, 80, 90 pages. So that's a very short movie, but about that length.
And you said it only took 8 months, like from start to finish?
Yeah, that was a guess. I mean, this was my first one, and I tried to make a long enough runway to get it done, and of course there was stuff in the process that slowed that down a little bit, but that's about right. I think, like, I'm working on the second graphic novel now, and I had to go back and re-edit it a little bit, so I lost, I don't know, 30 to 60 days. So it feels a little crunch right now, but 8 months is about right. Somehow because I can move it about 4 to 6 pages a day penciling, and that's some of them are rough and some of them are tighter than others. And then when I ink, it's I can move a lot faster once that bare bones sketch is there. And I do about 3 spreads a day, which is 6 pages too. So,
yeah.
But I kind of complete all the things that I didn't have in there to start with.
For sure. And I'm going to ask some like jargon questions because I in theory understand what you're saying, penciling, inking, everything. But for maybe young cartoonists who may watch this and they want to learn how to do this, what is let's talk about the process. So penciling, inking, like walk me through it like I'm your daughter who doesn't know anything about. No.
Yeah, what you do is you have a thought, you have an idea book. It starts broad and works its way in. So doing a 240-page graphic novel would be intimidating for an adult, let alone a kid, unless you have a notebook and you have ideas. So if you're of that 9 to 12 age and you think doing writing and drawing is something you want to do, I would recommend writing ideas down. It starts with me with ideas and having kind of tent poles or markers of where the story could go. Really knowing where it's going to end is really important. And if you have a story and you're a kid, doing a one-pager is what I'd recommend. Do something that can be done in a day, that tries it out, that you can show your parents, see if they smile. I mean, I know they're going to smile, but you show your peers and you'll get different reactions than your parents, I'm sure. But yeah, take a concept. Superheroes is a great analogy, I think, because everybody's had 10 years of Marvel movies, and if they haven't lived the full 10 years, they've got a backlog of 10 years to watch in one night, So I would recommend, if you did the superhero thing, make a superhero with an issue, not the greatest superhero, but a flawed superhero, and make that your story, give them powers or her powers, make the things they talk about a relatable piece of everyday life, even though they're a superhero. That would be where you're going to get your friends and your family to chuckle, is bringing that relatability into this, whatever your concept is.
Yeah, and then and I obviously kids won't be able to have the material that you use, but what's it looking like now? You're penciling physically and then scanning it in. What does that look like? These are very basic questions, but I'm so curious. I know you're working. I can see that now. So
yeah, you can see my screen here. This is called a Cintiq. I can draw right on it. So let's see if I can point just at it really. But if I work in several programs and it's just like paper. So like if you're a kid out there, you can draw on paper, and paper is actually cooler than a lot of the programs you can use, because everybody that draws digitally like I do is trying their hardest to make it look like paper.
Yeah.
So if you're drawing on paper, that's a great advantage. Why I don't draw on paper is just speed. I have to do so many pages a day, and doing that, it's I can use this like its own light table. So I'm going to draw really big so you can see, but like if I did, can you see that a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I can see it a little. Yeah, there's a guy with a thing with a face. Yeah.
And if I don't like it, or this is a sketch, I can do kind of an onion skin to it and go over the top and really fade this out and draw another one, kind of like I said, like you're taking it to a window at your house, in your kitchen, maybe on your sliding back door or something. All this can be done with paper and a regular pen you can find in your house. I just do it on this neat fancy tool because it makes it really quick, right? I don't have to tape it to a screen door and do all that stuff, and I don't have to scan it. And when I'm ready to color it, I can color right behind that black line, and the black line will what's called trap the color. So you'll have this thick line, and then your color will go right in the middle of it. So I start with I started issue 2 with a dummy book that I did with pencil. So to see if I was close to that 240-page count, I would kind of pace it as I went and kind of look to see where I was at. I'd compare the script, how long the script was, to how much that goes into the 240 pages. So if you did 10 pages or 1 page, obviously 1 page is pretty simple because you could just, you have some notes, and then it's just about how many panels it's going to take to get the job done. And when you do any of this, you just want some breathing room. Like my books have lots of breathing room. It really feels like more of an animated adventure, and I'm trying to inject a lot of feeling with the characters. So there's a lot of subtext, I guess, or there's a lot of glances, looks back and forth, and sarcasm through characters pausing and just reflecting. I always like that in newspaper comic strips, so I'm kind of pulling that into this world and showing how you can have a kind of a lighter read book, but there's so much in the emotion of what's going on that you really do get to know the characters regardless.
And you mentioned, this might be a spoiler, so maybe this is something you don't answer, but you mentioned like if a kid wants to start drawing, know the ending. Is Ham Helsing something you see an ending for, or do you kind of see it's going to be a long winding adventure, and maybe you don't even know where it ends up?
Yeah, I honestly don't. We have at least 3 books coming out. I've written all 3 of those. I'm in the middle of the production and inking, the end of the inking on the second one, and I'll probably start the third one January 1st. That'll be, like I said, doing kind of a dummy book of a really, I wish I had I wonder if I have the sketches. They never move anything in my office.
Yeah, that's how I am.
But the sketches are super rough. So like anybody that's watching, it's probably at any of your skill levels how I sketch the dummy book. Because all I really want to know is how things are going to be placed on a page and how many panels there are. So is this page a 4-panel page? Is there a lot of talking? Am I showing a scene for the first time that I need what's called an establishing shot, where you kind of have the zoomed back thing, so you get an idea of setting? And I have pages like that. They're just these big splash pages that are either intense action or big moments or establishing shots. And then some pages are just dialogue-y and kind of having some matter-of-fact dialogue between characters. And so it might be 9 panels. And in that process, I break it apart and I draw it as quick and as rough as I can. And the purpose there is so I see how long it is, and I'm not afraid to throw anything away or reinvent something. I think kids especially, they think that you need to draw this perfect drawing from the get-go. And that's like, this is probably, like I drew this, I've been drawing so many pigs that I can draw Ham really quick, and it's like, wow, you can kind of nail that character really quick. But truth is, if I was doing a page and I didn't know the position of Ham, I can share do you want me to share my screen, or?
Yeah, let's do that if you don't mind. I didn't even think about that. You should be able to.
Yeah, let me see.
Yeah, there we go. Oh wow, this is a great idea. I wish I thought of this right there.
Okay. So if I was going to pick a position and I like Ham was going to be facing just not a straightforward shot, but let's say somebody was tapping on his shoulder and he's turning around, I really draw in shapes to start with. And I would recommend that as like a drawing technique is to keep it rough. And I did a class the other day for some kids, and we were taking a look at Dogman. So if there's any Dogman fans, he draws in shapes. Here's like a orange half or whatever.
Yeah.
And a circle and a triangle. And he's got a hat. He's got these long eyes. A big smile. And he's got his little cop badge here. But you can see how you draw in shapes here, and it really comes together pretty quick. And this would be maybe my pencil, and then I might make that faded way out for when I actually do something where I connect these lines and make it a little bit more, interesting to look at. I don't know if he bridges a line.
Yeah, I do not know off the top of my head.
But if there's some kiddos watching, they probably know. I don't know if he has his badge on his chest, or I don't know. But same thing with Ham. I start with rough stuff, and I could kind of finish the drawing with inks. and that helps for like putting Ham in new positions and new expressions, and really conveying emotion as I draw. That's the biggest thing, is to have these characters kind of breathe life on your page. So I think if there's any aspiring cartoonists or story writers or graphic novelists in the crowd, I think I would just recommend telling a story from front to back that shows emotion and is somehow relatable. So if it's superheroes or vampires or any of that, you have to have some sort of relatability to the reader to understand what you're talking about anyway. There's a guy named Bill Keane. He did Family Circus. I don't know. There's probably no readers of that in the audience if they're young. But he used to do this exercise with his kids, and he would draw a bunch of circles, and he would just attach emotions to them. And they could be complex emotions, or they could be simple ones like happy and sad. And he said, draw happy. So, this is a great exercise. I'm drawing Ham, but to really figure out how to draw with emotions in mind and feelings in mind, and you will get much better if you draw a picture and you want your character to really feel something.
Yeah.
You're going to channel what you're feeling or how you're trying to represent it in your drawing, and without knowing it, you're just going to draw better. So
yeah, and now that you've created Ham, Ham. Well, I'll ask two questions. The first thing is, when you were first starting back in the 90s, or maybe even before Ham Helsing, like right when you started, what's the hardest part for you when coming up with a project? Is it the actual physical drawing of it, the story, getting those emotions? What tricks you a little bit?
I like a lot of things, and I'm so distracted by shiny objects. I really enjoy creating. So I think what works for me is to really flesh out an idea. And I've been a lot more patient over the years, or I've trained myself to be more patient and how to kick the tires, so to speak, on ideas. And so I'll come up with an idea, and I love everything. They're all like my newest shiny object that I think is cool. But I really try and sell myself on the project. So I act like I'm trying to sell myself like I'm my own boss. So I'll do story ideas. I'll go down certain paths. I really want to know that it's going to be able to fill up a graphic novel, that the characters are going to be interesting, that it's complex enough, that it can last over time. I think there's a lot of characters in Ham Helsing that help, keep the ball going like a game of hot potato. It just, you can, bounce back and forth between characters in different locations, and that kind of thing really helps. When I'm creating, I've got a bunch of ideas, and when I have a moment to take my breath, I was gonna figure out which one to put my energy into, and I honestly couldn't tell you, because I haven't really challenged those ideas. And I think it comes with, okay, I think I have a good idea and I really want to test it. So, starting small, doing a couple pages of these characters interacting, or to me, the most rewarding part is really the writing, because, I can write, I don't know, 20 pages of art in a few hours, but you can't do 20 pages of art in a few hours, so that part, it feels more instant, and it feels like you're a kid in a candy shop, and you get to just, play God and make things happen, and if it doesn't work, you'll make it a different way, and that to me is really fun. It's frustrating too, because there's a lot of rewriting to it.
Yeah.
But as long as you don't let that discourage you, or you don't get stuck on an idea that it has to be a certain way, And I think the more you read, the more you understand some rules, I guess, to creating. And by that, I don't mean that there's one way to write, but like you're trying to have conflict, right? So as simple as that, you want, it's okay to make your reader feel uncomfortable. It's good to have conflict. It's the natural instinct is to solve all the pieces of drama that happen in a story. And in fact, you don't really want to right away, right? You want to keep that tension and that anxiety going for a little while so it can sustain the book.
Yeah, and then my follow-up is, and this is something that interests me just in general when I talk to writers, and you're probably the first that I talk to that is the writer and cartoonist, the full creator. Editing. You mentioned how you have to go back and touch upon things, but like, what does that look like in the graphic novel world? When you're talking to an editor or whoever, is it just touching up dialogue, or is it we need a whole new page of panels? What's that look like?
They've been very kind to me. I've got to say. Hopefully, my editor's not watching this, but no, I mean it's a compliment all the way across the board. They've been super cool, and it is kind of anxiety driving, because if they did deconstruct it, there's 240 pages we're balancing on a deadline, right? So and I think in years past, these are stories I've heard that editors, and I don't know with my publishing group, but I've heard that they've been light on editing just for the aspect is they didn't want to dismantle the whole project. You unravel a piece of string and the whole sweater starts to come apart. But I think having a good blueprint, and they were really excited about my initial script.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was no doubt on their enthusiasm when we started. And so they were great. And I think the second one, we had to, kick the tires and check it out a little bit just to make sure it was, as good or better than the first one. But we try and work that out all on before we start drawing it. And then once we start sketching and drawing, it feels like there's more of a consistency game to make sure, I am one that will just keep on going. I don't think too much about like things maybe I should, like if somebody's wearing a bow tie and the next page they're wearing a necktie, things like that could certainly happen in my world, where you're focused on the plot and you're not really paying attention to which side are the lapel buttons on, those sort of things are what come into play when I'm in the middle of like inking or penciling or coloring.
Yeah.
Is we'll be looking for just mistakes, just easy visual mistakes and consistency mistakes with type, stuff like that.
For sure. Now, we have some questions from the audience, and if you're out there listening, please put them in the YouTube chat, and I will ask them to Rich. The one question is from Jeff. He says, and I'll kind of tweak this, but he asked, how did you come up with the idea of Ham Helsing, which you mentioned you're not really sure, it happened. But I guess, how did you come up with Ham Helsing's first adventure specifically?
That's I really wanted it to be a journey of self-discovery. Actually, I do have an answer for where Ham came from. I had never read Bone, and I had a new daughter, 2 daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this is a chance to read to her and to read Bone for the first time, right? So I'm reading it to her, and she was, I think she wasn't as glued to it as I was. I thought Bone was such a love letter to comic strips of days past. Trying to think of the comic book artist, Pogo. To me, it looked very Pogo, and it looked like the same drawing arm even as Pogo. Well, there was things about that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed how he drew out the mystery that was going on in the background. And I really liked how the characters spoke to each other, kind of like comic strips, and really enjoying each other's company. And it was kind of like this big adventure. So I was like, man, I don't want to write just like Jeff Smith, but it would be fun to do something that felt like this big epic journey, and that there was conflict that was more of a mystery going on behind the scene of these characters talking. So it started out as kind of a love letter to Jeff Smith. And, I started in a place where I thought it would be fun, which, like I said, I always liked those campy horror movies and such. And I wanted it to be a reluctant hero's journey type of thing, where he couldn't solve anything himself. He needed friends. He needed to gather people along the way to help him out. So that's where it started. It started with reading Bone, honestly, and taking things out of Bone I liked, which was that long drawn out drama, and then interjecting maybe more humor and more of a gag style to it.
And the question is, what other graphic novels for kids have drawn your interest? So you mentioned Bone. Are there any other ones that stand out to you?
I read them all the time thanks to my kids. Obviously, Dave Pelkey's killing it with stuff, and he's great. I can't write like Dave Pelkey. It feels really corny to write that way myself. But it just comes off great to my daughters, and they love it, and it's really fun. I mean, I love it too. It's not my tone necessarily. But I understand why he's so successful. Like Dogman is great. Captain Underpants, I didn't read it until the movie came out, and then we went back and we got some books for the kids. A book that I really enjoyed was This Is Our Pact. What it's called? I have it here somewhere. That one? Have you seen that one?
No, not yet.
Ryan Andrews. It too was this big epic thing about friendship and insecurities and kind of coming of age drama, but all wrapped up in this mystical, over the top big journey, and it was just beautiful. Really a masterclass in storytelling. I don't know how it's selling, how it's doing. It was recommended to me by a friend, and really neat.
Oh yeah, and then that looks really great. I just pulled it up. The cover looks terrific. I love kids on bikes. That's the big selling point, I think. If you have a kid on a bike, it's
yeah. This guy did things that are like wow, like the text and I shouldn't be selling somebody else's book while I'm on the call, but he merged text and type, and he can compose a page. Just incredible movie-like shots.
Yeah.
And there's still cartoons and stuff, but it's a great read. I try and pick up a lot of stuff, and I obviously read adult stuff. That inspires me as well, because it gives me the engine of like how I want to compose a shot. I think all that relates back to even the cartoon way I draw, because it's really about camera shots and pushing yourself and making it feel more cinematic to me. So I read a bunch of things through my kids on the kids level, and there's great stuff. My daughter, my oldest daughter, likes Raina. I'm gonna butcher her name. Raina Taglemeyer.
Yes.
And Terry Livingston. Just can't get enough of those two's books. And those are fun. They're drama oriented. My daughter picked up El Defo and must have read it 10 times. Something. It was crazy. But it was awesome. I mean, those like biopics kind of thing. These autobiographical, which butchering the word. way of telling a story, even if it's from this long time ago when kids, you wouldn't think kids could relate to it, but it's really about insecurity and about kids, have you read El Defo, or do you know about that?
No, I haven't heard it. Yeah, it sounds good though.
It's like this kid has a hearing aids from the 70s. So in the 70s, the hearing aids were like, you'd wear them like Flavor Flav wore a clock. You'd wear this big thing around your neck.
Yeah.
And then the teacher would have a microphone. You had hearing aids, I think, here, and you had some amplifier or something, and she had a microphone. So if you're a kid from 7 to 9, I mean, not every kid wants to be the class clown. I mean, some kids just want to be invisible. They don't really want to stick out. And you don't want to stick out for the wrong reason when you're a kid. So this kid was forced to be the center of attention, and she really didn't want to be. And so all that thought of like, am I a weirdo? Are people liking me or disliking me because of this big thing? And that my daughter really gravitated to, because I think at that age, you're living in your own head and you're wondering if your truth is similar to somebody else's truth. And it was cool. It was really neat. Everybody was a bunny rabbit. But other than that, there wasn't really a humor to it. It was just a drama, and it was just retelling her life.
Wow.
So it was interesting.
That's amazing. I feel like I'm don't have children, and I know the book world okay. So I'll pick I pick up Bone and whatnot. But thank you for those recommendations, because I feel like that's like the essence of stories are for kids, and then like everything else is just adults just get everything on top of it, all the adult drama. But this kids drama is where like it's like really touches me. And then just wrapping up, where's Ham going next? I know you said there's a 3-book series, without spoiling anything, but like what's like a tweet length reveal of what we can expect from?
Well, book 1 ends with him not really knowing if he's a vampire hunter anymore. It kind of resolves his journey as far as not doing it for other people. Mm-hmm. So the books 2 and 3 are going to explore the idea of his identity even further, and he's really a monster hunter in book 2. Mm. And he's basically finding his own identity instead of just following what he thinks his parents wanted him to do.
For sure. And like you said at the beginning of all this, it's really the journey of him, his internal struggle that drives everything. Well, I can't wait to see the second one. I read the first one when I found out I was going to do this very quickly, because I'm an adult. I could blow through comics, I guess. Anyway, but thank you so much. Ham Helsing was fun. Vampire Hunter. I can't wait to see the second and third and beyond. Thank you, Rich. Where can we find you on the internet? Where can you send your readers? I'm
on Instagram. Just look up Rich Moyer. Mm-hmm. And I'm not very good with Twitter, but I'm on Twitter. Yeah. And Instagram's great because it's more pictures and such. Yeah. So that is really fun. And I'm gonna, post as much as I can without giving things away on the process and everything.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Rich, so much. Thank you to all the readers out there who joined this live stream. It'll be available to rewatch. You'll get a link in the next 2 days. So check your emails if you are here, and then please share it once you get it so everyone could learn Ham Helsing and Rich Moyer. Everyone have a great evening, and thank you for joining Tattered Cover.
Thank you so much.